Guys, so I saw an Instagram post right recently, and it was talking about a particular man who stabbed his mother-in-law and stabbed his wife profusely. And I read certain comment that people were sharing online. But here's the thing I wanted to share with you, that when things like this happen, it's not ordinary and it's not something that we want to gloss over. There is a high chance that there's a mental health breakdown that they either weren't paying attention to or that they didn't know existed. So I'm going to say stabbing a family member is an extreme and rare act, right? And is often linked to untreated or severe mental illness. Now, these mental health conditions could include so many things, but I'll share a few examples of these mental health conditions that could result in someone stabbing their family members or even friends. And the first one is could be a psychotic disorder, for example, schizophrenia, where you have delusions, you have or hallucinations, and they make this person believe that their loved one is a threat, right? And then they go all out to kind of attack this person. The other thing that may cause this kind of a thing is severe mood disorders with psychosis. Now, psychosis, examples of psychosis are like bipolar or major depression that have psychotic features, right? Now, if you want to talk about psychotic features, let me just give you some psychotic features that you may want to be aware of. Somebody thinking that they must save their children from suffering, and then it begins to have you have an altered state of mind where you are seeing things differently, right? You're seeing things from the way they should. And the thing about bipolar is that it operates on different extremes. So on this particular end, the person may be excited and happy. On another end, the person may be sad, right? And that's the danger around bipolar disorder, right? Mood severe. Now, note that the word here is severe, not just mood disorders, but the word here is severe with psychotic features, right? Not necessarily, not just that they are severe mood disorders, but with psychotic features. And the other one is substance-induced psychosis. Now, remember that we talked about psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia, where you have hallucinations and delusions that can make person believe that their loved one is a threat. And then we talked about severe mood disorders with psychosis. Now, note that it's severe mood disorder with psychosis, and then you have substance-induced psychosis. Now, this is the kind of psychosis that is induced based on substances, for example, cocaine, meth, or alcohol withdrawal, right? This person has been taking these things before, and now the person is trying to withdraw from those things. And then so you begin to experience the withdrawal symptoms that can come in a heavy flow, so to speak. And then when you have his personality disorders, you have a situation where this person feels they're a different person from who they are. And then you begin to talk about things like dissociation, depersonalization, where you can't find who you are. You're struggling with where exactly am I? You think that, oh, I'm this particular person now, I'm not this particular person. You have things like intense emotional dysregulation, history of trauma, and lack of impulse control. This is where you find things around. Maybe the person is compulsed to do something where they are or they have extreme emotional breakdown. The fourth thing is PTSD or trauma, right? Of course, you have flashbacks or you have rage episodes leading to misplaced violence. You're just remembering things that are happening to you or that have happened to you. And instead of acting or whatever thing you want to do, doing it in the right way, you then take the violence on another person. And the last one is neurocognitive disorders, things like dementia, where you're confused or there's aggression, you cannot remember who you are or who these people are that are with you, and so you begin to see them as they shouldn't be here. They're intruders, all right, in your space. Now, the truth is important to understand that this is not making a case, right, for things like this when they happen. No, it's just because understand that we cannot joke with our mental health crisis or with our mental health rather. We must pay attention to how we feel and how people around us feel. You can't just close your eyes and assume that everybody is fine, right? You must pay attention to signs that you see around or things that people do when you see awkward behaviors. Don't just wave them off. So these acts do not happen. Usually happen when there is no treatment. They happen when there is no treatment, when there is substance abuse, or when there is a mental health crisis, right? But it's important to also note that most people with mental illnesses are not violent, and early intervention is key. And there is intervention, or there are interventions that you can actually inculcate or introduce. The fact that this has happened doesn't mean that mentally ill people are violent. No, that's not true, right? Not everyone with a mental health condition is violent, and people with mental illnesses are far more likely to be victims themselves than perpetrators. So what happens, why would violence happen is one, when there's lack of treatment or medication, non-compliance, or two, a crisis that is ignored or downplayed, or three, there's co-occurring substance use. That's the person is going through this phase. At the same time, the person is also using a particular substance, and finally the person has a history of trauma. Here is a sign for you to pay attention to your mental health, pay attention to the mental health of people around you, and encourage professional help if you notice anything. If Let me know what you think about this, and if you have any experience you'd like to share, do feel free to reach out for help if you need help. Thank you.